This is going to be my recap of Week 14 of the 2022 NFL season, big picture takeaway from some of the notable games and all that kind of good stuff. I'm doing this in a different format than how I did the previous weeks, as this week's games kind of stunk. So I figured let me just go ahead and highlight the games I really wanted to talk about. Starting in this case, in reverse order, on actually Monday night, Cardinals versus Pats. Patriots won this one in Arizona, 27-13. You know, it's a game they desperately needed. I think they had lost 2 in a row, maybe 3 in a row. They really needed this game to keep themselves in playoff positioning, and now they actually are in the playoffs, the number 7 seed. I don't know if they're going to hold on to that spot, as right now, you know, they have a pretty tough schedule going forward. Actually, by strength of opponent, it is the toughest schedule left in the NFL. And given how anemic their offense can look and the play calling, it's hardly a guarantee they're going to hold on to that 7th spot. But they're in the playoffs for now. The bigger story is in the other side, the Cardinals. They lost the game overall, but they had a much bigger loss for anyone that saw the game. The very beginning, within the first minute, I think that's the third play, Kyler Murray goes down, non-contact injury. Immediately, when you saw the way he fell, you're like, uh-oh, that ain't going to go well. And it turns out it was a worst-case scenario, as it was a torn ACL. So that means, you know, done for the season. And given how this injury happens in December, it's likely going to be out probably till, you know, like October, around Halloween time, because he definitely probably won't start the season next year. So this is just a huge disaster for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, given what kind of a weird, just sort of year they've had, where, you know, they stink it up in the wild card game. Kyler Murray plays terrible. There's a drama with the contract. He scrubs his social media. In my opinion, handled the whole contract thing, the way he went public, it was just such bullshit, the kind of shit he did. He ended up getting his contract. They ended up extending Kingsbury, the coach. They extend the GM. Really, I'm not sure why they did it. I don't think they had really proven anything to be worthy of contract extensions. There's all this drama with the team, and now with Kyler Murray going injured, for him, you know, him suffering an ACL injury is different, as he's a guy who needs every last bit of speed and athleticism he can have, given how he's a miniature-sized quarterback. You take away a good percentage of that speed and athleticism, all you got is a short quarterback, and he wasn't exactly lighting it up this season. So going forward, if you have an injured Kyler Murray, it's just like, man, it's just he ain't going to be worth that contract, because that contract hasn't even kicked in. So by the time he comes back and is playing under reasonable expectations, once he's about a year and a half removed from that injury, you know, he's going to be making $50 a year, and I have high doubts he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. I don't think anyone thought he'd be a top 10 quarterback right now. So given the coaching situation, I mean, you can fire Cliff Kingsbury all you want to. Who the hell is going to jump into that situation and say, yeah, I want to coach Kyler Murray, who I have no idea if he's ever going to be the same again. I have to mold a whole offense around the player. I don't know if he's going to be the same again. It's just a disaster for that team, who was having just a disastrous season. You know, it's amazing to think about where they were at this time last year. I mean, at this time last year, they were slipping a little bit from that perfect start that they had, but they were obviously still going to make the playoffs. You see where they are a year later. The future is very murky for that team, and I wouldn't want to be in that position. It's just a really tough position they were in, but one that's self-inflicted, as there was no reason that they had to give Kyler that contract. Why they did it, maybe they felt the pressure, I don't know. They could have franchise tagged him. He still would have been on the contract for like 3 years. So this is why teams do not give out guaranteed contracts like that. So the people that are going with the whole, you know, bullshit, hey, pay Lamar Jackson whatever the hell he wants to, and I'd say bullshit to that. No way. People that won't say him to like sit out the season and shit like that, say go ahead, because when I'm a team, under no circumstance am I giving guaranteed contracts. Just ain't gonna happen. So yeah, that's that game. Sort of a big story, kind of the biggest thing going forward in the NFL is that injury. But then you look at the other slate of games, probably the biggest primetime game on Sunday anyway, was 49ers Buccaneers. 49ers absolutely slaughtered them. Now, I did pick them to win this game. It was the first time you were going to be seeing Brock Purdy taking the helms fully as a starter after Jimmy Garoppolo went down. I expected them to win. I didn't expect it to be 28-0 at, like, I believe it was halftime or something like that. And yeah, Buccaneers had no chance. Although I knew, like, the 49ers defense has been just unbelievable. best defense of the season so far, in the regular season anyway. And I knew they would give the Buccaneers fits, but their offense definitely looked pretty goddamn dynamic. More dynamic than it's been this season so far. So I guess it goes to show that they, kind of knew what they were doing, having confidence in Brock Purdy, even though it is just one game. They looked really good. Well, they looked great. I'm still not ready to make any big sort of declarations about what Brock Purdy can do going forward. But if he can play this kind of football, then they'll be in more than good shape going forward, and they won't need potentially Jimmy Garoppolo down the stretch if he can come back. There was a report after I did the last video that said that his injury, he could be back in 7 to 8 weeks. But at that point, that means they're playing good football and making a solid playoff run. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, I wouldn't bring him back. You just stick with Brock Purdy at that point. As far as the losing team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just been such a weird season for them. I think most people expected them to be at around the same level they were, last year. But this team has just not looked very good, and you see them go up against like a real primetime contender in the NFC. With the 49ers, they just get destroyed. But the thing is, the fact that they're in such a bad division, that's what's kind of kept them afloat. Although now with the result of another game, Panthers and the Seahawks, the fact that the Panthers won that game, Panthers have actually been playing some pretty solid, decent football, at least for them, ever since they've got rid of Matt Rule and Steve Wilkes doing a really good job as the interim coach with that team. That kind of plays into the Arizona Cardinals thing when they got rid of him after 1 year and hired Cliff Kingsbury. But regardless, he's doing a really good job with that team, and they've put themselves in position now to where Tampa, they can't just continue to slide and just, pussyfoot around the rest of the season. They got to win some games because the Cardinals are right behind them. I believe they do have another matchup coming up with Tampa, and that'll definitely be a game that will likely decide that division because the Cardinals are definitely playing better football overall than the Buccaneers do. Buccaneers obviously got the, the name talent and all that kind of stuff, but they don't start playing well. Panthers definitely going to take them. Panthers actually beat the Seahawks to win that game. And I never really fully bought into the Seahawks. I always thought it was just kind of like, it's a better story than it is, I think, an actual team. And they've definitely been sliding come back down to earth after the sort of, I believe at one point they were 6-3 or something like that. Geno definitely had his worst game of the season so far. And, they don't have any chance of winning that division now. They were up in it for a little bit. 49ers have kind of pulled away at that point. I think they play the 49ers this week, so that'll definitely be an interesting game. I guess if they can win it somehow, the division will still be a little bit of doubt for the 49ers. But I don't think anyone at this point has major faith in the Seahawks. Speaking of faith being taken away, Cowboys versus Texans. The Texans, or the Cowboys, were the biggest favorites of the entire NFL season so far. I believe the point spread went up to 16.5. And this was a game, you're talking about sweating it through, just barely making it in, barely making it out, barely making it out of the gates of hell with the flames literally lighting your butt on fire. They needed a 98-yard drive in the final minute or whatever to win this game. Wow. You talk about just absolute embarrassment. I remember seeing this, the score, when the Texans were up. And this wasn't even like the final minute. This was even in the second quarter. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're a 16.5 point favorite. The largest favorite in the NFL this season. And you're down. It was like, I don't remember, it looked like 17-10 or something like that in the second quarter. Just unacceptable. But with the Cowboys, they're a team that, even though, they got the talent, I think, coaching is decent. They're all around. They got the stuff to be a contender. But, they're the team that's most likely to be the most disciplined or just put up an unexpected kind of stinker. And that kind of played a role in how things went in this game. And this was just would have been an absolute true embarrassment if they had lost this game. To be honest, it still feels like a loss because when you're a 16.5 point favorite, can't be sweating it out against the 11-1 Arizona Cardinals, Houston Texans. This was just a really embarrassing effort and one that they're just, I guess, thankful just to get out of there. Speaking about getting out of there, Tua Tagovailoa is definitely happy to get out of Los Angeles. He did had a dreadful game on Sunday night when the Chargers lost, or the Dolphins lost 17-23 in LA. Chargers absolutely needed this game. I mean, they have to make the playoffs, otherwise that coach is going to be in trouble. But you see now that they're starting to get healthier, and maybe they can be dangerous. The Dolphins have looked anything but dangerous recently. They've just, in their last 2 games in California, facing the Chargers, facing the Seahawks, Tua's looked really bad. In this game in particular, 10 for 28 overall, started the game 3 for 17. I mean, you just don't see that happen with quarterbacks, but you just look at him on the field, and, even when he's going through that hot stretch, which I was happy because I didn't want to see the guy play poorly, but I just was always thinking, like, man, it's something about it just doesn't look right on the field. It's a smaller guy, doesn't really have any athleticism. He's a guy that needs all the conditions to be perfect. And if you don't have those perfect conditions, regardless what kind of, I'm talking about in terms of, perfect protection and whatnot, weather conditions. And if just one thing goes, kind of sideways, he's just not the kind of talent that's going to overcome that. You almost feel like you have to, need a lot of stuff to prop him up. And if you have a great quarterback, real franchise quarterback, or any quarterback in general, got to be able to make things happen when things aren't quite going, your way, in terms of all the stuff going, all the stuff coming together for you to get the win or even look competent. And he's looked anything but competent these last couple weeks. And they got harder games to come. I mean, the big game against the Bills outdoors, it's just like, I don't see it. So the Dolphins, even though they've, been impressive for the most part this season, they could be coming back to earth in big time fashion pretty soon. I'll put it that way. Those were the biggest games of the weeks. There's some other stuff I'll talk about when I get to this next section. But in terms of the big playoff picture, let's start off with the AFC first. Definitely going to be a dogfight between the Bills and the Chiefs for that top seed. Bills are currently number 1. They have both 10-3. Bills beat the Chiefs head-to-head in week 6. So now it's going to come down to, can the Bills hold the Chiefs off? It's going to be tough. Chiefs have a much easier schedule. Chiefs had a decent, well, I don't know if it's even decent. They're up 27-0 against the Broncos, and that's to sweat it out, 34-27. I don't care how much you play with your food during the game. That is to have it come down to that after being up 27-0. Yeah, not great. 4 seed is the Titans. They've been not so great lately. They're 7-6, but I think they'll still hold on to the AFC South. It's not really a team. I mean, the Colts are the next closest one. Or actually, the Jaguars are now, but I don't really foresee them as a real threat just yet to win that division. And your wild cards took out Bengals, Dolphins, and Patriots 5, 6, 7. I think the Bengals still got a real shot to get that number to win the North and get top 4 seed. Ravens, I mean, without Lamar Jackson, I don't know how much longer it's going to be. I don't foresee them hanging on to that spot, even without whatever kind of games they play. Dolphins, I think with the last few losses, they've kind of handed the division over to the Bills now. They're 2 games clear. And after they play head-to-head, I think it'll pretty much be over. So, but the Dolphins, I think they'll make the playoffs, but it's far from a guarantee. They got to, start winning some games and look like the team they've looked like for the past few months. As far as the Patriots, we'll see. I don't foresee them making the playoffs. They have 2 toughest stretch coming up. Games against the Bills, games against the Bengals, games against the Chargers. Not going to be great. On the bubble right now, outside, you got the Chargers, the Jets, and the Jaguars. The Jaguars are only in contention because of the division. I foresee out of those teams, the Chargers are going to be the ones that make it. Before this week, I would have said the Raiders would have made it because they had been playing really well, winning 3 in a row. But after their disastrous last-minute loss to Baker Mayfield and the LA Rams, I don't foresee them making it. It was an amazing win for the Rams, who just had a miserable season. It was actually really cool how they did it with Baker Mayfield coming in and winning it after you'd only built the team for 48 hours. It was a fun story for them, but a disastrous, another collapse for the Raiders. Really bad stuff. As far as the NFC goes, Eagles are still killing it, 12-1, although they still don't have the division locked up. When they play the Cowboys on New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, that's going to be a big time game. That could, even the division could be still being doubt for them. So we'll see. Vikings are still there, 10-3, even though they lost to the Lions. Lions been playing better. I'll talk to them in a little bit. 49ers with that Vikings loss, they got a chance to catapult and move over the Vikings, which, given how the Vikings have not looked great, they're such a weird 10-3 team, I actually do think the 49ers will move up. Buccaneers, as I was talking about, they're in the 4th seed, only there because of the division record. But given how the Panthers 5-8, Buccaneers are 6-7. It's definitely not over. So that head-to-head matchup is going to mean a lot. Like I said, Cowboys or Eagles will be that top 5 seed, given how the records are. And then you got your other 2 slots made up of NFC East teams. You got Washington and the Giants. So the Giants, I don't expect the Giants to hold on to that spot. They're the 7th seed right now, but they just have not been playing very well in the last month or so. So they'll be doing some more free falling. They're 7-5-1 now. I can see that, continuing to go forward. And then the rest of the teams, Packers, they're not making it. Falcons not making it. Saints not making it. Yeah, we don't foresee anything with that happening. So there you go with your Week 14 wrap-up right there. Interesting week, once again, headlined by another injury that happened, with Kyler Murray this time on Monday night. Not that the Cardinals were all that relevant for this season, only relevant for some of the wrong reasons, mainly in the offseason. But yeah, that would be my biggest picture takeaway. And then, some of the games like your 49ers, Buccaneers, stuff like that. So yeah, there you go. This week, I guess probably the most interesting game I foresee is Dolphins at Bills, even though I don't foresee that game being all that close. I just think of the Dolphins as a warm weather team, and then playing Buffalo, with Buffalo been playing better, won their last 4 games. I think Buffalo will take that one. Bengals, Buccaneers might be interesting, but interesting in some ways. In fact, it's still interesting, even though the Buccaneers have been really bad lately. I still kind of want to see that game. It's in Tampa Bay, so you got, the Tom Brady versus what many people, the quarterback who reminds them, the young quarterback anyway, that reminds them the most, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow. So that'll be good. But then your other stuff, Cardinals versus Broncos with no Kyler Murray and no Russell Wilson. Yikes, that ain't going to be good. So, yeah, the next slate of games, maybe it's time to do some Christmas shopping and spend some time with the family, all that kind of good stuff. So there you go. So that'll do it for this Week 14 wrap-up of the NFL season, 2022 season. Goddamn. Made it to the end of this video. Thank you for watching.